Hello everyone, welcome to Pepcoding. In this video, we are going to discuss another problem of our stack module. So the question is next smallest element to the right. So firstly, we discuss the question, then we move to our approach. So in the question, you are given a number, represent the size of an array A. So we have a number n which represent the size of our array A. You are given n numbers representing element of array A. So we have numbers which represent the elements of our array. You are required to next smaller element on the right for all elements of an array. So we have to find you are required to next smaller element on the right for all element of array. So we have to find right next smallest from the right for every element. Input and output handles for you. So we have another line. Next smaller element on the right of an element x is defined as the first element to the right of x having value smaller than x. So what does this line mean? This line says the next right element means if we have fourth element of our array, then the next right element of that element is the element which is in the right side next right of that element. Like we at the fifth position we have 3 instead of 4 for 4, so that 3 is the next right smallest for the 4. So let's see the input output, and there is another note statement. If an element does not have any element on its right side smaller than it, consider -1 as its next smallest element on right. So if there is not any smallest element in the right side of that element, we have to consider -1 as the smallest right element for that element. Okay. Let's see our input output. So in sample output, they are providing us 5, 5, 3, 8, -2, 7. Then in the sample output, we have 3, -2, -2, -1, -1. Okay. So for the given sample input, for this input, this one is the output. So let's move to our whiteboard, and for that, where we discuss our approach. So here what we do. So firstly we create our array, so which they are providing. So I am creating 5 size array. Three. So 9, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have number 1, 1, 9, 2, 5, 4. Okay, so that's what it's our array, and we have a stack also. Using that, we are finding the smallest right next for the element. Okay, that's our stock. Also, we have an answer array because we have to find out the right next right of that for that element. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So this question is the similar to the last one. So if you didn't watch that question, please go and watch that question. That question is very helpful for you in this question. So in the last question, what we are doing, we are finding the greater from the from left. Like we are finding the greater from left and moving from 0 to n. But in this question, what we have to do, we have to find out smaller from the right. For that one, we are moving from n to 0. We are traversing from last to first, so that we can find out the right smallest next right smallest for the every element. Okay, for this one, for 4, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. For fourth element, we don't have next right element smallest, so we put -1 here. why I put -1 here? Because you can see in this question what they are saying, you can see properly. If an element does not have any element on its right side smaller than it, consider -1 as its next smaller element on the right. Okay, so we are writing -1 for fourth element. Okay, you can see. Also, what we are doing, we have stack, and in this stack, what we do, we push that element firstly. So for every element, we have a mandatory condition. We have to push that element in that stack. But before pushing that element, like, we have to check conditions. Some conditions for greater element, the element which is greater value is greater than the stack dot peak element of the stack, or the smaller. For, let's see, for 5. So we have to find out next right smallest element for 5. So push we have to push this in the stack. Before push this element, this one, in the stack, we check the condition for the greater element. Like, for what greater? The element or current element is greater than, if our current element's value is greater than the value of the element which is present in the peak of our stack, then what we do, we firstly add the number which is present in the peak, this one, present in the peak, on the peak of stack, we put that in our array, in our answer array. This is our answer array, this is given array, this is our stack. And then we push that element in our stack. Again repeating, if the value of our current element is greater than the value of element which is present on the peak of the stack, then firstly we add this element in our answer array, and then push that element in our stack. Okay, let's move to 2. For 2, we have to find out the next right element smallest. Okay, next smaller element in the right, in this direction. For that, we have to push that element. Now the value of 2 is smaller than the number which is present on the peak of the stack. For the number whose value is smaller than the number which is present on the peak of the stack, for that what we have to do, we have to pop the stack, pop from the top of the stack until we get the number which is smaller than the value of current element, or the size of stack become 0. I am again repeating, for smaller number what we are doing, smaller value number, what we are doing, we firstly pop from the top of the element, then again check if the value of the element is smaller than the current element, then we add that value in our answer array, and then we push that element in the stack. Otherwise we are pop again and again until the size becomes 0, or the value at the top of the stack or the peak of the stack become less than the value of current value. So for 2, we are firstly pop 5. Okay, firstly pop out 5. Then we check for 4. 4 is also greater than 2, so we pop it out. Okay, I am removing these also. Here is our 2. Okay, now the size becomes 0. So for 2, what we have to do, we have to put -1, because there is no any element in the right whose size is less than the 2, or value is less than the 2. Now come to 9, and the push is mandatory, so we push 2 in. So for 9, we have to come to the stack and check the condition. The value of 9 is greater than the 2. So what we have to do, before push that element in the stack, we have to add value of peak element of the stack into the array, and then push our element. Same thing which we are doing for 5. At the for that we have at the last we have 1. So for 1 what we have to do, I'm removing this. Okay, I'm removing this from the here, then come to 1. For 1, firstly we have to check is the element present in the peak on the peak is greater or smaller. So the number present in the on the peak of the stack is greater. So what we have to do, we have to pop it out and then check again for 2. So it's 2 is also greater than 1. So we again pop it out, and then what we have to do after that, the size becomes 0. Here is 0, no element in the stack. So we have to put minus here for -1. I'm again repeating what we are doing. We are creating an answer array. For last element, we are putting -1, and we are start traversing from last to from right to left because we have to find out next smaller from right. That's why we are iterating from right to left. For last element, we are taking -1 because we don't have another element in the right for last element. So that's why we are taking -1. And then for the next element, we are taking, what we are doing, push in the stack is mandatory. So we have to push. Before pushing, we are checking if the element present in the on the peak of the stack is greater, if the value of that element which is present on the stack is greater than the value of element which is our current element, then firstly we have to pop out. Sorry, we if the value is greater, so what we have to do, firstly add that element in the array, then we have to push that element. And the second condition is, if the value of our current element is smaller than the element which is present on the top of the stack or on the peak of the stack, then what we have to do, we have to pop it out and check again for the another value which become the top of the stack, then check is greater or smaller. If it's smaller, then we have to add that value in the stack, otherwise we pop it again and again. So I hope you understand this. So moving to our editor. So in the editor, you can see they are providing us in the main function, we have n, which is represent the number of size of array. Then we have array and array a, we are adding element. Then we have a solve a, which function, this function which we have to complete. So let's start code. Firstly, I'm creating an array. I'm it to full size so that we can easily understand, see it. So int answer array, and new int size of that array is arr.length. It's equals to the, then we are creating a stack of integer type st new stack. Okay, then what we are doing, you can see here, we are adding -1 and push that element in our stack. Same thing I am doing here. What I am doing, ans at arr.length -1 is equals to -1 we are putting, and st dot push arr dot length -1. Then we start iterating from last to from right to left. So for that, I is equals to arr dot length -1, okay, -2, and I is greater than equals to 0, and I minus. Then we are checking our first condition. While in the first condition, what we are doing, Let's suppose we have 4 and 5, and then our next value is 2. So for that we check if the value is of at the peak of stack is greater than 2. So we are doing pop and pop until value become size becomes 0, or the value is less than the current value. So sd dot size is greater than 0 and st dot peak is greater than equals to error at I. This happen, what we have to do, we have to pop it out, st dot pop, and then I'm taking it up. You can now we can see it clearly. If st dot size is 0, then what we have to do, answer at I is equals to -1. You can see this thing here. For 2 size becomes 0. For 2 size becomes 0, we are adding -1. Same thing I am doing here. And the else part, what we are doing, answer at I is equals to st dot peak. Okay, same thing you can see here. When 5 comes, we check this value is less than 5, so we add this here. Same thing we are doing here. At the last, st dot push error at I. Okay, and the last, what we are doing, we are return the. I am again repeating what I am doing here. Firstly, I am creating an array of arr dot length size. Okay, then we are creating a stack st of integer type, new stack. Then we are adding -1 at the last of answer array. Okay, then we have put the value which is present at the last of the array in the stack. Then we start iterating, then check if the value at the peak of the stack is greater than current value, then start pop again until it becomes less than or size becomes 0. If the size is 0, we are adding -1. If size is not 0, we are adding value at peak, and then we push that element arr.I in stack and return answer at the end. Okay, so trying to compile it, firstly moving it this from here. Okay, so trying to compile it. Watching. So is there any error? Int answer is equal to new int arr length. Okay, incomplete type of int, so we forget writing this here. We are creating array. Now trying to run it again, so another error. Okay, here z is forgotten. I check is there any other error. Now trying to compile it. Now it's compiled successfully, gives us output which is similar to our sample output. You can see in our output 3 minus 2 minus 2 minus 1 1, and same thing you can see in our output 3 minus 2 minus 2 minus 1 minus 1. So trying to submit it. So we get 10 out of 10. So that's all about the question. If you have any doubt, please write in the comment section, like the video and subscribe our channel. Thank you for watching the video.